Hey, welcome to Sports Map Houston. I'm Brandon Strange. That guy right there is Paul Gallant. You can catch him on Vanessa and Gallant weekdays from 10 a.m. to noon on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. If you haven't yet, please hit subscribe on this channel. We do appreciate the support. While you're at it, too, go give a sub to Paulie on his channel, too. He puts out good content weekly as well. Hey, Paul, welcome in. Last week, we got the report that Juan Soto declined a 15-year, $440 million deal from the Nats. It's the richest contract ever offered to a player. Now the Nats are reportedly open to hearing offers for trades. There's, as from a Houston perspective, there's just so much about this that makes it so unlikely that Houston's going to be players in this. From the fact that the Astros don't do long-term deals, they wouldn't pay Springer and Correa. Scott Boras is his agent. There's a lot of layers upon layers of reasons why it would not happen. Let's put that aside because, hey, we talk sports, so we like to just put scenarios out there. I will say this. Given the fact that he wouldn't be a rental, he has, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2 years of arbitration after this one.
Correct.
He is a special talent. No doubt about that. The Astros are in win-now mode, and they have questions with the outfield. They got questions about Yuli, Brantley, McCullers, Maldonado. Jim Crane, not afraid to make a big deal at the deadline. We've seen that in their history. If the Astros were to somehow swing this deal and bring Juan Soto to Houston, do the Astros become the de facto World Series favorites?
I think they would. And Brandon, what concerns me is hearing that the New York Yankees' dirty little mitts are potentially interested in bringing in Juan Soto themselves.
Yes.
They're already off to a great start. Let's assume that they have whatever would be necessary in their farm system to get someone like Soto. They have the money to pay someone like Soto, and maybe they need to because it does seem like they're potentially heading for rough waters with Aaron Judge based off of some contract negotiations that they had before the start of the year. They add him, they improve, and that concerns you because it does still feel like it is the Astros and Yankees in the American League. I'm a big believer that where you are at right now, if you have the opportunity, and as you said, it's very unlikely that the Astros would make a trade like this, but if you have the opportunity to acquire anyone, whatever the cost, I say it's worth it.
Okay, well, then I want to be more, let me put some parameters on it then.
Okay.
Let's say that they fire all the bullets at this and make it happen because they would have to. I mean, that's, it's going to be a ransom. But the Astros fire all their bullets at this, and that includes top-tier prospects. Hunter Brown, you're gone. Like anybody who's ever been any good, they're gone. Probably some players, from the main roster, like they're gone. Maybe a Kyle Tucker or something along those lines. Like you're going to lose a lot of good players out of this. Let's say though that you get Juan Soto in some form of like a competing team that has a window for 2 years, 3 years where you have Juan Soto there. But after that, I'm telling you, in this scenario, you can't win. Like you're not going to have the talent to win. You got to sell it all off. And then you're in 5 years of obscurity while you rebuild. Do you take that deal where I'm guaranteeing you 5 years of you're not going to compete, but you get a 2-year window in which you are one of the contenders?
It's a really tricky question because I think one of the most compelling things about the Astros over the last 5 years has just been how they continue to reload. And you wonder, wait, how are they reloading? And this year's example would be Jeremy Pena. They keep finding guys to plug and play, and it has worked out really, really well. I think the real question, though, that you'd have to ask yourself is, do you feel like it is sustainable for them to continue to do this? Are they going to go on the kind of stretch that we saw the Atlanta Braves have in the 1990s and the early 2000s? It's one of the best runs that we've seen in baseball history as far as consistency. They were winning division after division. They made the World Series a couple of times. But sad thing is, they only have one World Series to show for it. If you're operating just from a baseball perspective, a business perspective, it's not smart to decide to just say, you know what, the next 2 years, this is it. We need to do all that we can over the next 2 years. But I'm of the belief that you want to be remembered as a historic team that went on a historic run. Right now, you're in danger of potentially being the 2000s and 10s version of the Atlanta Braves, where you were really good, but you weren't great. You won one World Series. You made it to two more, but you lost in both of them. I need another title. I need the Astros to have another title to show down the road. So we're looking at this as one of the most historic runs in baseball history. And if it does mean that, yeah, I am going to burn all of my resources and potentially any chance of competing, I think it's more logical to assume that that would get you a World Series than that you will continue to be able to be playing at this rate where you're making the ALCS. The playoffs don't start until the ALCS every single year.
Yeah, I guess that is, though, counterintuitive to a business, though, where you're trying to have a sustained revenue flow and people are not going, like, Jim Crane does not want to see 2014, 2015 repeated in Minute Maid. That's like,
right.
Like, I mean, they're going to try
so
to
checked out. It was crazy. Like
Yeah.
from 2011 to 2014, Brandon, I remember doing radio shows and we wouldn't even talk about the Astros at all. No one wanted to talk about them. They stunk.
Yes. And especially baseball. Like, baseball's a thing where it becomes so regional. If your team is good, you care. If your team is not good, you do not care.
Nope.
And more so than that, I think even more than sports like basketball, where if a basketball game is on and you know the teams involved, you know the players and the stars involved, you'll watch it. I just don't know that baseball kind of carries that same, like, and you're just not going to watch a random game on TBS or whatever. Like, you're not going to watch just a random baseball game. But you mentioned something I want to go back to, which is sustainability. The Astros have had this window where they've been able to compete. You know, you lose guys, next man up. You know, you're still competing. It does seem to be running a little thin from that standpoint. And granted, like, again, no one could have foreseen, other than, I guess, the Astros, could have foreseen Pena being able to be, you know, this good and being able to really buoy the shortstop position after the loss of Correa. But after seeing this A series, it does become a little apparent that there may be a widening gap between what they've got in AAA and the big club. Hunter Brown notwithstanding, we still don't know, you know, what that looks like at the big club level. But with all the questions that I listed to you before, you know, all the question marks that are around this team, and then kind of given the state of the minor leagues, do you think this is even more reason for the Astros to be that much more aggressive to get Kyle Tucker locked up?
It could be, but I guess then to sort of ask a bit of a follow-up here, Brandon, if you're the Astros, should you not believe that you're going to be able to develop these players, seeing as you've done it? I mean, you've brought in guys like Yordan Alvarez, and Yordan's looking like the best hitter in baseball. Statistically, you could argue this year he has been. As you mentioned just a moment ago with Jeremy Pena, I think for us, yeah, it's unlikely, especially when you take a look at all the prospect rankings, that they're going to be able to continue to turn straw into gold. What is that, Rumpelstiltskin style or something like that? Like, the odds are against it, but I don't know. Betting on themselves has worked, and it's been one of the coolest part about this Astros stretch run. They're not like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox where they have just unlimited cash supply and, hey, they can take a couple of years off or maybe competing to the highest degree, but they're going to be able to reload very quickly. No, that they have to do it in this kind of mid-market way. It's worked so well. I feel like I'm kind of a jabroni if I'm saying, like, actually, you know what, guys, don't have faith in yourself anymore. The future's terrible. Everything's going to be bad, you know? So I don't know how you would convince James Click to feel that way.
Yeah. Do you think this is a case, the fact that Tucker's not already locked up and Yordan is this a case of which maybe Tucker's just going to price himself out of being an Astro the same way that Springer and Correa did?
I mean, he might. I mean, shoot, if Soto doesn't like $450 million, you can assume that a lot of these players are thinking to themselves, well, why would I accept anything less? I get it with Yordan Alvarez coming from outside of the United States. All of a sudden, just multi-generational wealth has been given to you, and you're like, I'm going to say no to this. You have a different perspective. But if you're Kyle Tucker or Juan Soto or any of these other players, I think you believe that you're going to be able to get these massive deals. And you know what? It doesn't always work out that way. Ask Carlos Correa. I'm sure that Carlos is hoping that next offseason, when I am assuming he opts out of his little deal with Minnesota, that he gets the kind of deal that he thought he would get this offseason. But I mean, that might be the reality. If you want to keep a guy around, an American-born player like Kyle Tucker, you're going to have to really break open the bank, and it doesn't make a lot of sense just based off of the lack of success other organizations across the sport haven't had since they gave guys like Mike Trout or others the big time contracts. It really hamstrings who you're able to keep, and you end up having a top heavy team that might have an MVP candidate, sure, with a great wins above replacement, but you're 18 games under 500 and in fourth place like the Angels.
Well, we'll see how the Soto thing plays out. I appreciate you walking through. It's fun, again, just, hypotheticals. It's fun talking through it. Hey, probably appreciate you joining me on the channel.
Brandon.
We'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Thanks, dude.